Hello, everyone. One of the weird things about anyone who goes to high school is that at some point you're going to come across some rule that you entirely disagree with. And back when I was in high school, there was one rule that I agreed with the rule. It was an important rule to have, but I disagreed with the implementation of it. Obviously there's a rule in the Philadelphia school system that you're not allowed to bring weapons into school. I mean, clearly, I walked through a metal detector every day of high school. No big deal. But what I didn't like was the fact that knitting needles were considered weapons. I mean, they're pointy sticks. It seems even odder because I learned how to knit in the Philadelphia public school system, so anyway, I got through a good percentage of high school by bringing in a crochet hook instead because that was okay. But I remember there was this one day freshman year, I was sitting in a class. I'd written all the notes that the teacher wanted us to write down in the notebook, which was a loose leaf sheet of paper being held by a small folder. Yeah, that was not my most difficult class in high school. And the teacher just liked to hear himself talk, and he just had all the stories to tell us, and he liked to show us movies. And he let me get away with murder, pretty much. So one day, I was bored, and I decided to knit during his class. I mean, I sat in the front row. There was no hiding this from him, you know? And what did I use for knitting needles? Pens. Yeah, which, as you can imagine, not the most ideal thing to be knitting with. Now, when I was knitting in his class, I had a skein of purple yarn, and I did some finger knitting first. So finger knitting is when you do crochet and you're doing the foundation chain. It's the same thing, except you can pull it tighter because you don't have to worry about sticking a hook inside of it. So I did that, I think twice, so I had a thicker thing of yarn, and then I did it. But I'm just gonna use the yarn as is today, so you can see what this would have looked like. It's You Won't Stop Me Knitting. Now, there was a different teacher who offered to just store knitting needles at school for me because teachers can bring in that type of stuff, which I decided against at the time because when I was younger, things were more black and white. And in general, I have a very all or nothing personality at times. So it's well, if I can't knit, I'm not going to knit at all at school. I'm not going to bring in the knitting needles and then go during lunch. I was going somewhere else during lunch at that time. There you go. You can see I'm obvious, it's a clicky pen, like that. And I'm obviously doing it without the points out because I don't want to mark up the yarn. You may have also noticed that I haven't used these pens yet because it still has a little tip on the end. I bought these pens to use at work because things happen, you need to write stuff down. That's literally any job. Any job you have, just carry around some sort of notebook and a pen, so that way if something comes up, you have something to record. You know, that's just common sense at this point. But I've learned to buy cheap pens and then just bring in a cheap pen to use at work, so that way if I lose it, I'm not upset. At a previous job of mine, my old college had sent a pen with my address on it, as part of the alumni association, despite the fact I did not graduate from that college. And then that pen went missing at work. And I later saw my manager had it. And I knew it was my pen because no one else was going to be using a pen with that university and my address on it. It's like, oh, that's what happened to that pen. Okay. And it's such a weird thing to be salty about. It's like, really no big deal, but it's like, it's my pen, you know? Almost like Annie Edison from the episode Community. It's like, no, it's my pen. We are not leaving here till we find my pen. There you go. So that's that so far. I mean, it's like super loose. Like really, really loose. One of the benefits of having it with like the finger knitting is that it actually looked nicer. And I actually brought I finished the square, I brought it home, and it hung in the kitchen for nearly a decade afterwards. In general, a lot of my relationships with other people are, hey, look at this thing I made. It's for you. And it's not like anything big. It's like, oh, look at this little fish that I made. It's for you. It's yours now. It's like a huge part of how I get through the workday is there's like random pieces of paper. Like the back of the battery label stickers. Like that was just going to go straight into the trash anyway. And it's not recyclable, so you might as well fold it into something, you know? And a lot of my coworkers are like, okay, yeah, thank you, Becky. Thank you. we appreciate this piece of thing that would otherwise be trash that you were giving us. Yeah, was that 4 rows? Did that really go by? Oh, yeah. I mean, that's that. If you're in a pinch, you can knit with a pen. Although, I mean, it's not as smooth as knitting needles, but it works. That was today's entertainment. Have a nice day.